of the On the Mic podcast, and very excited for this guest because I've literally been following him for years. We just saw him make his UFC debut in a wild fight, one of the most exciting and wildest fighters you'll ever see. Chepe Mariscal. Chepe, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good. So, man, I mean, we go all the way back to your HFC days, and then regional circuit for quite some time, and then you get the call. Take me back to that. What was getting the call like for you?
Man, it was like just because other fights I had previous from that one. A lot of people were saying if you win this fight, you're gonna get in. You're gonna get in. And it just felt kind of unreal. I was like, okay, I got the call. Let me see. Let me wait on these feelings real quick. Let me get the contract first. Let me get all the medicals done. Like I just didn't want no freak accident to happen. Like even my opponent, I didn't want to like magically be injured now. And it was kind of unreal. But then like when I got to Jacksonville, it was like, oh, this is unreal. Like his hospitality, the all the workers, the matchmaker was there. It was just really dope.
So did the moment of you finally made it, and I know Chicago, everyone's proud of you. Was that before the fight, during the fight, after the fight? I mean, we're going to talk about after the fight and during the fight, but did it hit you before, during, or after that? Like, I'm where I belong.
No, I definitely hit after the fight. Cause like, man, like just to witness the crowd that they had, like when I was like walking in at first, I was like, oh shit, like there's a lot of people like, oh, I'm on the UFC screen, like it was just wild, and then when I go in the cage, like the dog came out, so I wasn't really feeling or anything thinking, it was more of like, let's get this dub and get out of here. And then when I was walking out of the cage, that's when it really hit me. I was like, damn, this is really where I belong.
Because you set the entire arena on fire. You're like, this is where I belong. You mentioned the dog came out. Man, so Trevor Peek was no, pushover as an opponent. I know everybody was overlooking you, from the odds perspective, which I thought was hilarious. But when you were preparing to face someone like Trevor Peek on short notice, was it just game plan as usual for you, or were there specific things you were preparing for against him?
It was definitely game plan, man. There's nobody that, throws punches like him, dude. Like I couldn't ask one of my partners to throw me like a hammer fist punch or any, like, it felt so awkward even like we did like this little like play-by-play kind of thing. And it was still kind of weird. I was just like, even my coach is trying to mimic him. I was just like, this, like, I don't know, like, it's obviously different, and I was more of a, like, okay, well, I sparred with Gaethje, I sparred with a lot of heavy hitters, I sparred with a lot of dudes where I'm starting to make more knowledgeable movement instead of like running into a lot more shit, but yeah, dude, it was just I just felt ready. I seen all the opponents he had, all the opponents I faced. I was like, man, he hasn't faced anybody like me, and I faced a lot of guys like him. So I'm like, man, I was just ready at that point.
I know the confidence was there, the game plan was there. Was there ever a moment where you were like, I gotta get this guy out of here, or were you just living in the moment and just? I mean, it was a great fight, man. You were the talk of the town afterwards. So yeah, obviously, I know you want to finish. You obviously got the victory, but I don't know if you prefer coming out of the cage after a wild fight or just being like, nah, I'd rather just knock him out and get out of there.
Yeah, well, man, I love the game, dude. If he survives all 3 rounds, that's amazing. I for sure. I was like, a lot of points. I was like, man, I gotta like, because he caught his guys, in between a lot of, attacks. So I was like, I was even a little hesitant because I had a lot of even coaches tell me, like, I saw that the machine gun was coming out, but then you started pulling it back and then it came back out. And I was just like, yeah. And they're like, that's a smart game plan because a lot of guys get caught in between his punches. So it was, yeah, just like, just being focused, being there was more of like the idea, owning the moment and just being like, this is it, you know?
Well, I have, sat at some of your fights, cage side of some of your fights, and truth be told, I've gone, holy shit, how are they walking out of the cage? And that's something I think a lot of people were saying after the fight. When you got the victory, what was that moment like for you? Was it, this is everything I've worked for? Not to quote Nate Diaz, but is it, this is a culmination of years and years and years of work, or was it more of a, all right, I'm here, who's next?
Yeah, no, it's definitely that one, dude. I was definitely like, I'm glad I'm in, it's awesome, but it's just the beginning, dude. Like, I didn't get no bonuses. I didn't get like the most recognition out of like that night, and it's all right, like that's how my journey has been. It's always been like, who's this guy? Who's this guy? And I love being that guy, I don't like being the guy they all know and all that stuff. Why not be a surprise to everybody, So I'm glad that it's the beginning, and then it's like, man, I just can't wait to tear up these divisions, I even was like thinking like, man, what if I played around at 55? But my biggest move right now, it's at 45, and let me see what I can do there. And then if I could magically go to 35, I want to see this nutritionist and the PI at the UFC and see if they could, because there's a lot of science, man. Like, I've seen some nutritionists and they're like, man, the lowest you could get is 145.6. And your body's going to start reacting funny. And then I get down there and they're right. Like, my body starts shutting down. I start feeling my kidneys. I'm like, damn, dude, I'm like, even making like, it's trouble making 145 and I'll do the right nutrition and everything. But like, man, it's your body could do so much, So I'm definitely seeing if I could just tear everybody up at 45 and then, maybe won't make one of those jumps, but I'm just chilling there for now.
I was going to say, I know you mentioned wanting to be a part of 3 divisions, 35, 45 in the post-fight press conference. When you say it like that, I think you have a very mature and smart mindset, just one UFC fight into your career, talking about the nutrition and having to be balanced and understanding the science. Do you think long-term we would see you at 55?
Yeah, for sure, dude. I just know because of age too, dude. Like, and then like the density I have, I'm very dense, like if when Gaethje says you're dense, that's when you're dense. And that guy hella dense, bro. I take one leg kick, I'm like, damn, dude, like I definitely got to run away from that. So it's like I'm trying to obviously keep this nutrition at a certain level, but keep my strength and my cardio and everything else in the same time. So like my fight with Peek was, I had all this cardio. Like, I felt good. I had food in me. I had all this nutrition, the UFC was giving us all this food. I was like, damn, this is awesome. Like a lot of other fight promotions, obviously, like in the regional scene, you don't got that stuff. They give you hydration drinks, food that fits your kind of diet. Like, what do you like? What do you don't like? So it was awesome to get all that. And then now it's like, okay, now I can put these things to work. Like, now I'm here. Now I could use all their all the science they have. They have the PI, obviously, and they say they help all their fighters. Like, man, shit, put me on board and see what's up.
Yeah, and there's a few more questions I have for you, but I think talking to you and knowing you for as long as I have, and having covered you locally here, in your hometown, right outside Chicago, I want to, and I know you said I'm just getting started, but I think the timing is very funny and very ironic, and I can't bullshit, I can't make this up. I was out earlier this week and talking to someone who I guess grew up in the city, and she was like, yeah, there's a fighter from Cicero. He's always been on like the regional scene. He just made his debut recently. I was like, Chepe. She was like, yeah, like he's amazing. So, dude, I know you've been in Colorado. I know that's where you call home now. But when I tell you that, and I can't bullshit you, what does that say to you after all those years in the grind, all the years on the regional circuit? People still from around the Cicero area, they're just waiting to talk about you, especially after your UFC debut.
Yeah, man. I think it's because I've ran into a lot of people in Cicero and Chicago locations, and I've shared a lot of my story of like, man, I want to make it out of here. I want to be out of Cicero. you get easily trapped, easily comfortable with the things around you. You know, it's easy to, like, I was like, man, it's easy to get a normal job. Like, it was easier than that, than training and fighting and paying all that stuff. Like, I was like, man, this is all easy. Like, I could work at the UFC gym. I could get a, what was it? A manager spot. Like, it just kept, like, it was like, oh, all this stuff is easy, but I want what is going to fulfill me for, fighting, like everything else was pretty set. I could have lived in my parents' house and say, fuck it, like, let me do it the easy way, like how all the Cicero people do, like, not all of them, but, there's a few where I'm like, hey, man, you're a little lucky because you get to live in your mom's basement. But it's like, man, like, I'm glad, like, how my parents raised me to, like, hey, man, you got to, like, chase your dreams, even if it's not here. So I made sure, I let people know, sometimes you got to leave and maybe come back, or maybe stay out there for a little bit, and really find what fits you, like a lot, like I couldn't find the right thing for me in Chicago. And I felt like my career was slipping away. And I was just like, man, I want to be driven. I want to show people, like, you can make it anywhere. I'm from a little town, Cicero, and I'm going to show everybody I can make it to the big shows, and definitely going through the, even the losses in my record. People like to bring those up and shine those instead of, like, shining all my wins and the big things. I'm like, man, I was like, yeah, those are fights where I had no coaches. I had no guidance. I had no team behind my back. I didn't have those extra things. And the thing is, being in that Chicago area kind of made me that way. Like, I had trust issues. I didn't want to, like, believe in anybody else, like, so it was cool to just come out, like, to Denver, find, like, well, I was traveling a bunch, like, different gyms all over the States. And then, yeah, just Denver, I hit it. I came here, met Dillashaw, and our sparring sessions were awesome. So I was like, man, this is the place for me now, and then suddenly, like, the science here, the strength conditioning is great here. There's like the corner I have, they're good with mental preparation. So that's something that I didn't have before. So I was always emotionally fighting, and instead of emotionally fighting, they were fixing, like, hey, man, like, there's no emotions in this game. Like, you go in there and it's do or die, but you have to do it smart. You want to be the one, that doesn't die. So it definitely was, like, I evolved a lot maturely out here, because I've reached out for it. I started looking, started talking to a bunch of coaches, seeing what's up, but then it kind of, like, it started reflecting, with people in Cicero, asking me what's up, what are you doing for success? What is your story? Like, and then, like, a lot of people were hitting me up, like, after, so my mother passed away, and then I had that fight for LFA, for a main event,
Right.
And suddenly everybody started blowing me up about how to keep moving forward with with the parents' loss, and I just, it's tough to say what, but man, like, the MMA game, training and everything else doesn't make you think anything like that. You're there in the moment. It's like it's like an instinct, it's like a survival instinct. You're in there, you're like, man, I have to fight. I have to do nothing else but fight. Like I can't worry about nobody else, can't worry about yesterday, can't worry about tomorrow. I have to worry about now. So that kind of helped me. That is helping me out with all that stuff. But even what, like, my mother's told me too, like, it's helped me a lot with mental preparation for fighting and life itself. So I'm always willing to help out whoever's reaching out as well. I don't like keeping everybody's DM shut, even the ones, like, where I'm like, man, I don't even know you, but I'll open your message, to show you, like, some kind of appreciation, but it's, yeah, like, I try to do my part as a person in this world. I could fight, beat up everybody, but still help out everybody out in the street and stuff.
That's beautiful, man. And obviously, I know your mom's very proud of you. Obviously, sorry for your loss. Yeah, thankfully mine's still here, but I understand the pain of that, and I think it's great the way you approach it. I did want to ask you, and then just a few more, but I did want to ask you about your hometown. And I guess I'm going to sound bitter right now because the lack of MMA. I mean, I can name the names. Some of the names. You grew up around some of the names. Some of the names that came from the city and knew exactly what you knew. You had to leave to make it better for yourself. And the promotions are dying. The gyms are dying. We're talking about one of the biggest cities in the world, second, third biggest city in the country, and there's no MMA, but there's so much talent like yourself, Jose Shorty Torres, Curtis Blades, Pro Gonzalez, so many people. I mean, that's just the easy short list, right? But like, what do you make of the lack of MMA in such a big city?
Man, it's tough, man. I could go to the political part of things, man, and then it's a lot of just a lot of ignorance, and then we look at Illinois' taxes and it's ridiculous. So that's why you got these coaches charging like crazy, and they're like about property taxes and this and that. It's always these excuses, and then coaches are they're acting like their fighters are like money grabs. They're like, I got all these fighters, but they all gotta pay me. They gotta, like, instead of like, hey man, let me be part of your journey, let me help you out, like doing it for the good. Like, I get it, some of the good you can't get paid off of that stuff, but that's why you run more classes, like kids classes, adult classes, novice classes. There's like, I've been to gyms where they have everything sorted out, where the coaches have the gyms being filled in with other instructors, but they have enough time to handle the pros and then deal with the pros. Because come on, like, babysitting older adults is not easy. All fighters are different. They all, like, I'm different. Like, and I have a partner, same thing. We're different. We eat different things. We want different music. It's just, that's what it gets to. And then, like, man, it's just, in Chicago, I never found like all these coaches kind of teaming up. You got like a coach and then like 3 other coaches, and that's it. And it's like, well, where's the strength and conditioning coach? Where's like the wrestling coach? Like, and I feel like a team has to have every little thing, like wrestling, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, positional, footwork, like all these things. But it's tough. It's tough to team up I try to do that in Chicago. I try to team up everybody, and then they were like, nah, if you go over there, you can't represent us, or you can't train with us. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go over here. And then they'll say the same thing, like, oh, you're with them? Like, oh, then you can't come here. And it's like, what? Bro, like, I'm the biggest name right here right now as the regional guy. And I'm trying to find the people. But right away, their thing is like, oh, you train that? Oh, okay, no. They don't even try, and it's like, and it's been like that. Like, the only coach I could say that who's been always open doors, giving me great sessions was Mike Valley. Like, I went out there and they're very great with hospitality. They have the gym, they have the coaches and stuff there too. It's just, man, it's more to that for me. It's like, especially being in the city, like right next to the city, man, you get easily pulled away from like training, like everybody wants to party. People, like, I win one fight, people want to party for a whole month. And it's like, bro, like, it's not like that, dude. Like, and I do healthier things. Like, I used to party after my fights, get totally wasted, but man, like, my body would like be like so in pain. So now, like, after fights, I just drink water, try to like get protein in, because everything feels torn up and beat up. And I try to do like smarter things. I take a bunch of like stuff for the brain. It's like a pill for the brain and stuff like that. Like, for like concussions, clears up the mind. So I've been doing a lot of things like that. But like, I got all that stuff leaving Chicago, like, I didn't get none of that information. And I even tried to find a nutritionist there, and he was on and off. And I'm big on sports psychologists and therapists. So I thought, like, here, like, well, when I came here, there was a lot of that options, and then the coaches that I have in my corner have been to like, they're like vets, military vets. So they have other things like they have that they bring in this profession. So it's really cool, man. It's dope with the movement. It's just, it always hurts me to hear like Chicago and Cicero is just dying out. And it is like my old gym that I used to go to, my main gym that was there for 15 years ended up dying out, relocated. But yeah, it just like, it's tough to like see that kind of scenery. Like, I've always thought like maybe I will go back and fix it up, and hire all these coaches from different spots and and fix it up and see if we could like create this magic here, because we have a lot of talented people in Chicago. It's just they're not exposed, or they get easily sucked into the bad life, or I've had some fighters being in the in the middle of crossfires and end up losing their lives, and just being in the wrong in the wrong spot at the wrong time in Chicago. So it's kind of tough. It's like, even going back, I'm like, man, I'll be the villain right away. They'll be attacking me. They'll start breaking my windows or burning my building down. And it's just tough. It's just tough. I like I've talked to a lot of UFC fighters that are from Chicago or trained in Chicago, and they've told me like some parts of the same things I'm sharing.
Right.
And like not everything's from me. It's definitely from other fighters that I love to listen and like, man, like try to obviously fix it, but it's hard. Like a lot of guys from Chicago always hit me up like, hey man, like how do I get to Colorado? How do I do this? I was like, man, bro, I just jumped in a plane, got over there. I luckily won a car on this raffle, so I had this tracker, and then I was like chilling. Like I was basically, I can say I was living in my tractor, because like I was all over the place training and stuff like that. So it's definitely a sacrifice, it was definitely a sacrifice, and the mentality that I want to be the best, like kind of stuff. In Chicago, there wasn't a lot of people. Yeah, you got like a few guys, like one dude that I give props to, and he's over there in Chicago, is Bilal Muhammad, where he's doing a lot of his camps. He's looking hella amazing. So I'm like, man, like maybe he's changing it up, and we don't know, because we don't talk like that. But
Right.
there could be one guy to change up the game. Like when Michael Jordan went to Chicago Bulls, he changed the whole city. Like it could be like, I want to be that kind of guy too. Like if I could win a UFC title and then go back and like help others become champions, that'd be pretty dope.
Yeah, it absolutely would. Not from a fighting standpoint, but I'll tell you, man, I have a question. How do I get to Denver? Because I can only imagine and what I would give to be in that training room, man, if we kind of shift gears and just watching you guys and taking it all in. Take me inside. What's it like? We know Gaethje, and you got guys like Archie Colgan in that gym as well, Usman as well. But like, what is that training room like? And what you've already mentioned what that team has done for you, but what's that training room like?
Man, it's hard to explain, because you got different. I like to call them different animals. You got Usman over there, you got Gaethje over there, because they're not the same size. So you got them warming up away from each other. You got Corey Sandhagen over here. We got Hall over here too. He's doing over here jiu-jitsu. There's Tommy Lee's over here, like training with Corey. Like we have a lot of dudes, and then Trevor Whitman's there. The coach who like he's big on like right now. He's focused on his main dudes, but he'll give guys advice. He would come out of the like from corner coaching Gaethje, and he'll come to another group and be like, hey, you guys gotta, he'll like help out. So this team just has no beef. There's like no, but even if the beef is there, like they're like, all right, well, let's go. We're in the gym, we're in the cage, let's go. And eventually dies out, right? But it's just so much knowledge, man. Like you even could take a book in there and try to write things down. You could finish that book in a day, dude. Like it's so much knowledge. There's like more than like there's 7+ coaches from the like that coach dudes in the UFC in that room all the time. So it's like it's awesome, dude. It's just seeing that environment, seeing even the guys evolve and then go to the UFC. It's amazing. Yeah. And then we get guys on our team to go to the Ultimate Fighter. It's our team is really good with, like filling those expectations of like, okay, I need a coach for this, or a coach for wrestling, coach for striking. And we have those. We have coaches. We have like wrestling studs from national championships and black belt jiu-jitsu guys. We have like everything that fits in our kind of schedule. It's just you have to make the schedule. Like not all of us have the same coaches, so it's like everybody's got like their certain coaches. Like Dwayne had. TJ had Dwayne, but then he had other coaches like in California and over here. So like that's what we started doing, kind of like more of like what Gaethje and Usman are doing. They're kind of limiting their corner, limiting the people like that are in their mind. So it's kind of it's great to see it, and it's kind of like man, I want to ask these guys questions all the time, but they're when you're kind of in that room, dude, it's there's no questions. Everybody's focused, training. There's an hour on the clock, and that's it. They're all game for an hour, and then after, sometimes they, we mess around, joking and stuff. But it's about outside of the gym stuff. Like it's like, oh, I did this last week, or I went like snowboarding or something. It's always something different. So I see how people, even guys, how they mentally prepare themselves. Like. Sometimes there's dudes who want to go with Gaethje and to get that little grit, but then during like 2 weeks before their fight, they won't spar with nobody, because they don't want to get mentally beat. They don't want to get physically beat. They don't want to, they don't want that extra stuff. So it's like, man, like a lot of people mentally prepare themselves, and then they prepare their body. The nutrition is good, and then you have nothing but endless advice there. Like you go in there and you start asking questions, and they'll lead you. They're like, oh, I won't know, but that guy will know. Oh, if that guy doesn't know, then that guy will know. And it's just like just awesome. And then you get these speeches from these fighters. Sometimes we break down, and those fighters are feeling it that day, and they give us like this 5-minute, 10-minute speech, and it's like, damn, okay, shit, I'll be here in 2 hours training again. It's just so motivating. And it's like I find it's like, man, there's no room to fail in this room. Like they'll prepare you for the fight game, for all the shit talking, for everything else. Like the mentality of it is the big part. Like we have the guys competing in the room. Like there's like sometimes I'm going with Gaethje and I get him a takedown, and he gets me a takedown. They're like, oh, well, you guys are 1-1. Who's gonna get the winning takedown? We're sparring like doing MMA, but that's how they make us better. They challenge us in every little spot. They're like, even if we're like beating them up and on the ground and stuff, they're like, oh, okay, well, are you gonna submit them? Like, are you gonna advance your position? What are you gonna do? Like, so it's awesome. Like we have that push. Like even if you have like Trevor Woodman come up to you and tell you some shit, and you're like, oh fuck, I gotta do this now. Like it gets crazy, bro. Like it gets. Like you're like, damn, I feel the fire, and then you got Christian out, who's a great striking coach. He's Corey's striking coach, and he tells us some stuff, and it's like, all right, fucking dope. And my head striking coach is Mike Gonzalez. His wife's in the UFC too, the JJ Aldridge. Yeah, and he's a great striking coach. He's fixed my positioning, so he's seen that I was out throwing my punches and stepping too much, and that's from boxing. I did too much boxing where I was pulling my leg, and in MMA you can't do that. You'll slip, or your foot doesn't have the shoes on, so you would over punch on your punches. So he started fixing my footwork and like my footing and my placements. So all that I would be able to start like taking more angles, not staying in the pocket too long. How to take an angle. And it's just, it helped me out a lot because I didn't have coaches to help me with positioning. I had speed, power, endurance, I had everything else, but the being patient with my own power was mostly, my big deal.
I love it, man. And like I said, I'd run there right now just to be able to watch you guys train and, cover a day inside that gym. I asked Archie Colgan this, and I gotta rephrase it. So the way I asked him, I gotta ask you differently. I obviously know you're going to side with Justin Gaethje. That's not what I'm asking here. But as he pointed out, basically Usman won the BMF belt when he beat George Masvidal. He said he was going to take the belt. He kind of basically did take the belt. So he's had it without being awarded it. Gaethje's fighting for it. I mean, has there, like, obviously I know you're going to side with Justin in the fight against Dustin Poirier for the BMF belt, but like, has there been conversations? I know you talked about shit talking, but like, did Usman sign off on Gaethje going for the BMF belt? Because that's basically his belt.
Yeah, man, they haven't, like, in front of us, they haven't. Yeah. They've been sportsmanship, they've been training, doing their own thing, I don't even think Usman cares about that thing.
No,
he's been more. He's been more of like right now he's like at a whole different focus right now, bro. Like I haven't like it's crazy to tell you, like to see a fighter after they lose and they come back to the room, bro, everybody's fucked. You know, like they're training hella hard, 100 all the time, you know, like and questions all the time, like even stopping and hey, I felt off in this position, what can I do better? You know, like seeing the greats do that is it's amazing, you know, like there's some dudes they lose and they, you know, they disappear, you know, and it's and I think that's where a lot of fighters think they have to respond that way, you know, and but like seeing these dudes come back in the room, even Gaethje, you know, he had that loss with Oliveira and he came back still training hella hard, and giving advice, you know, even more like, you know, it helps people get comfortable in their training room, you know, and yeah, they're always like they're not competitive like at high altitude. I don't know how it is at Onyx, their main gym, but I hear like they're always competitive. They're always yelling at each other, you know. And then I guess it burns, you know, it dies out, and then they come to our gym where they're like, all right, they're separate. You know, you got Uzma training with the welterweights, and then Gaethje training with the lightweights. So it's yeah, like right now that's how it's been. It's been very like the shit talking is more of like, oh, you didn't take me down, you know, or you didn't, you know, or at least, you know, I didn't, you know, I don't know, I didn't get kicked more than you or something like that. It's always about like the rounds, you know, or like I submit you, you know, with this booty ass choke, and it's like, you know, and that's what makes the fun, you know. It's definitely like stuff like that, and then like gambling, you know, like they pool or darts or something different. So they're always finding something, and you know, Gaethje, dude, he likes to compete in everything, bro.
Yeah,
you know,
of course,
anything, you know. He's seen a diving board and he was doing already like 1,000 backflips, you know. So it's like, man, like this guy, you know, he loves it. He loves like that energy. You know, he doesn't even think twice. You know, he goes at it. You know, yeah, but yeah, that title is a funny title. You know, like the BMF title it's tough. Because there's a lot of bad motherfuckers in the UFC right now, you know.
There is.
Like there's so many. It's like a list, bro. And it gets tougher and tougher when people are like, "Oh, this is the BMF fight," you know. And I'm like, "All right, yeah, this one is," you know. And then there's another fight, and you're like, "Man, this should be it," you know. And it's just so tough. It's just so tough. Like even that. Like what would be cool, it would be for that title, what would be cool is John Jones against Francis Ngannou for that, you know, like something like that, you know, something like wow, this fuck, you know, like or you know, tell Khabib, hey, I will give you this title, but you got to fight GSP, you know, somebody, you know, like you know, make that title a little
super
more
fights,
you know? Yeah, like there you go, super fights. There you go, you hit it right there. Because Pride used to do that, you know, all this like super fights. You got like this 120-pound guy fighting a guy who's like 300 pounds. You know, I was like, man, okay, this is pretty cool. You know, so it's kind of hard to like detect where to put that BMF title. Like if there was no absolute division, you know, maybe that could be in there. But
right.
Man, like that title would have to like be running everywhere. You know?
I know. Well, you know what? Like, I mean, honestly, and I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you, but you named all the names inside your training room, man. Your gym should just have the belt, like at this point, right? Especially if things go according to plan for Gaethje against Dustin Poirier at UFC 291. But no, I agree. You know what? Let's just make a belt, a BMF belt for each division. Like, who cares? It doesn't cost the UFC much money. You are very much considered to be a BMF. You know what I mean? Everyone, I've seen that for years. I mean, I literally, like I said, opening this podcast, I've been following you for 7 years, and you know, here we are now in 2023, man. And I remember having you on the radio show, and now it's transitioned. I've transitioned to a podcast, and we're doing it over Zoom, and it's great. But now we're in 2023. You just wrapped up in July, or you know, late June. We're in July now. What is Chepe's schedule for the rest of 2023? Do you want one more fight? Like, do you want to be a little more calculated now that you are in the UFC?
Well, the thing is, I already contacted the UFC to give me already. Like, I already asked for a date, and you know, I'm aiming for September. Yeah, I was trying to get on these. There's 2 cards I want to get on if I can, but yeah, I already put my name in. I'm already getting to work. I've been training still. I was a little bruised in the beginning, but like I think training and then breaking up all that swelling and all that stuff kind of like helped out. So I feel 10 times better now. But yeah, dude, like it's just right back to work. Like I said, it's just the beginning, you know, and hopefully guys are going to want to hunt me down and not the other way around, you know, because in the regional scene, I was hunting everybody. I was like, okay, I'll fight you. Like, oh, hey, this guy's a Muay Thai champion. He was a fighter. Okay, let's go, you know, like, so now I get to like be in that kind of mix where, oh, somebody, you know, wants to actually fight me. Hopefully, you're right.
Right.
Because I want to fight everybody. I told them I'll fight, you know, give me the next undefeated guy, whatever, you know, like give me the Russians, the Brazilians, whatever, you know, like I'm about the sport, bro. Like I'm gonna go out there and give him my all, my best, you know, the best man wins, whatever, but you're going to go through some shit fighting me, you know? So, you know, I'm about it. I want to stay in it. I want to stay in it for a long time. So hopefully, you know, I build a good relationship with the UFC and then, you know, get the ball rolling.
Any names you have on the top of your mind that you would like to face in September?
No, not really, man. Like that's the tough thing because like I could give you some names and those names are already looking in a different direction. You know, they're already doing different things, you know, like some dudes they were going towards the belt. Now, right now they're taking a detour. They want them to fight less, you know, less experience. I don't know. Like it's weird how some of the fighters in the UFC could say like who they want to fight, who they don't want to fight. You know, I hear they give them a list of options and it's like, bro, like, just fight anybody, you know, like it's a payday, you know, if you're doing the training, you're doing what you want to do to be the best, like you're going to do whatever you can to win that night, you know, like you're going to win that night as, you know, the way you train and the next fight has to be obviously different. You know, you got to train different. You got to keep things, you know, kind of sharp in every other way. You know, I feel like every fighter likes to keep it kind of a style match, you know, like, oh, hey, I'm a wrestler. So I'm gonna fight all these strikers that have no wrestling background, no jiu-jitsu, you know. Or you got all these strikers who are like, oh, I'll fight this boxer, kind of flat-footed guy, you know. And it gets crazier until you get into the top 10, where it's like, oh, you got all these dogs, bro. Like there's no, you're like you got to train every little thing, you know. Even in the top 10, there's guys where you're like, oh, they're like they actually don't know how to wrestle or they don't know how to move. Like, you know, they start getting exposed, you know, and that's the thing. Like our sport is always going up and down, you know, you see weight classes suddenly like, you know, you hear no dogs and then suddenly you start finding these guys, you know, like, or somebody changes up their shit, you know, like Charles Oliveira is a good example. You know, he wasn't doing so hot and now everybody knows him. Now everybody like wants to be with, train with him and stuff like that, you know, like, it was like that for a lot of fighters who were just up and down, up and down. So I feel like it's not how good you fight. It's I forgot the saying, but it's like who stays in the longest, you know, like who stays in it, loves it, you know, does it for the passion, you know, and that's where I see, you know, where I fit in, you know, where I want to be one of those, you know, badasses, a legend, you know, leave my name in there, you know, for any little thing, you know, and then say I did it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I don't know what it means coming from me, just as a small podcast out of Chicago, but super happy, and I know the city is proud of you. I'm freaking proud of you, man. You know, to see you doing, you know, your thing, it's great. I hope we see you in September, and I hope we could talk before your next fight. This was a great conversation. I'm happy we had it, and yeah, man, this is awesome. It's one of those stories that, you know, especially myself being frustrated with how the Midwest and Chicago specifically has kind of disappeared in the MMA game. It's so great to see so many fighters leave here and find their success. And as someone like yourself, like I keep saying, I've been following you for 7 years, man, and you know, fortunate to cover you in person and now to see you at this point. And the best part is you're just getting started. So yeah, you know, it's an exciting time in the machine gun business. It's exciting for the UFC to have you, and I can't wait to see you return. And like I said, I hope we can talk before your next fight.
For sure, man. We will, for sure. Thanks, man. Right. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Chepe.